Welcome to the 12th episode of the Vinyl and Celluloid podcast. Since 2020's events cancelled all the live gigs and festivals, there's nothing better than reliving the great memories from the great concerts of the pre-corona times. Today, I'm joined by Miguel Aguiar, a London-based professional who is also an excellent guitar player and has a great collection of live concert photos. We'll be discussing his main influence, his favorite gigs, and even a tip or two on how to take amazing photos in concerts without annoying the rest of the audience. Stay tuned. So Miguel, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on yet another episode. I know this one has been delayed or in a long time in the making.
Yeah.
But here we are finally. So Miguel, for the audience, for those who don't know you, you are well. Besides your day job, you are also a musician or a guitar player,
Yes.
and a gig photographer. So you have an amazing portfolio of great photos, and I just found out that you take them actually from a similar angle than the general audience, and that's fantastic. So first things first, I mean, how do you? Well, tell us how you started into this, how you can manage like your day job and also like all these hobbies and passions, which is something nothing short of amazing.
Okay, so I've started to get into music when I was around 7, 8, because of the influence of my closest cousin. Okay, so basically got me into Guns N' Roses, Metallica. And a few years later, he started to play guitar, so I also got into guitar, I remember my parents bought me a guitar in the supermarket, because in Portugal they used to sell, like, in like the toy sections, some electrical guitars, and I started playing there, and I got to have like lessons of classical guitar for a year, but I wasn't really liking it, so I quit after 1 year. And then I started to play with a friend of mine who plays drums. So at our school we had like a rehearsal spot, and we basically just started playing there. It was mostly like Metallica covers and a few other things, but yeah, for a while that's what I was doing into music, But on the other hand, around that time it was very common to, like, music magazines always had posters and also like a lot of pictures in the magazine, and also, I mean, because also of my cousin, I started to like put the posters on the wall and also cut the pictures and put them on the wall of my room. So I always got to really appreciate and really get into the photography of the music. And this was basically when I was between 10 and 15. I only had that interest in the photos, but I never really thought about it. I didn't know much more. But there was a concert. I think it was like in 2001 or 2. I don't remember. But I went to see a concert, and I took one of the small film cameras. And I took a few pictures, and I was like, "Oh, this is really nice," I remember back then we had to bring the film to a shop, and they would basically print the photos, and I was like really impressed. Even though if I look at the photos now, I'm like, this is not really that good, but in that moment I was like, "Whoa, this is really nice," and to basically capture a moment of an artist that I really liked, was quite impressive for me. So I was.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. It was a good feeling, to see the photos printed. But
and it was, sorry, but which gig was that? Like, which band do you recall?
It was Soulfly with Max Cavalera.
Oh.
Yeah. It was. I think it was around their second album, the Primitive album. I think it's the name. Yeah, it was in Praça Sony.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was old school.
Yeah, old school.
Yeah, but it was like I was like in the second row with a friend of mine, and yeah, I mean the camera was really basic, didn't have any zoom, but
Yeah.
but some pictures were okay and was through my eyes at
Enough
that
to
time.
motivate
Yeah,
you
yeah.
to pursue. That's
I
cool.
still have those pictures in my parents' house probably, but I still have them there. And on the other hand, the guitar playing always kept like the music. Started to have a few bands with friends, and also started getting to other styles of music like blues, jazz, funk. But I always kept playing guitar and studying a bit more, and for a while that the music was just the only thing. The photography after that concert, I think I didn't took photos for a while. I had that camera, but I didn't even use it. But a few years later, I went to study in Madrid for a year, and my parents had bought a digital camera, which was quite okay at the time. This was in 2007, 2008. And then I went to see a concert there in Madrid. It was George Lynch, the guitar player from Dokken. It was basically there was an opening band, some Italian guys, I don't remember the name. They played like a short set, half an hour, and then George Lynch came, played like a few songs with a backing track, like some new material he was working on. And then the opening band was like his backing band to play Dokken and Lynch Mob songs. And at that concert, I took a few photos that was like, again, had that feeling of being like, whoa, this is really nice, this shot was. And that's what really started to get me more interesting again in the photography, especially in the music photography. So, yeah,
it's really cool. So I mean, first of all, I guess when you take your first photo, and even with the film ones, there was a lot of a lag, and you tend to appreciate more because nowadays with an iPhone or with a smartphone, it's done there and the filters will correct it. Obviously, you didn't have that experience, and therefore you can allow yourself to be a bit more critical of your own early work. It's really cool, like, to see that connection from learning to play the guitar, from the bands that influenced you, to the magazines, to and actually the poster. Because I recall when I started to buy, I used to buy Blitz and Classic Rock. Obviously, you had some photos, but nothing like you're describing, and I'm aware of the difference because I've seen some of the old magazines, old school ones with the giant posters and all that. And I mean, that was actually a lot of promotion when it came to releasing an album or even featuring an artist, right? You would be able to get posters for free if you bought a magazine, right? Nowadays, it's a bit more rare. So that's really cool to see that connection and that flow. And also, I mean, it's funny you mentioned George Lynch and Dokken, because I do have a friend who's also a guitar player, Portuguese guitar player, as a hobby and as a pleasure. But he also, I recall that he was the one who introduced me to Dokken because he was never into the, let's call it the glam metal side of the 80s, but he loved the over-the-top aspect of breaking the chain, and the video clip and everything. So I was like, okay. So he was the one who introduced me to Dokken, and then then I found the rest of the band, and obviously Don Dokken solo work, George Lynch, both in as a solo artist and as part of Lynch Mob, and it's really cool. And I mean, one of the things, and a slight detour here, is that, well, you've lived in London, Madrid as well, and obviously Portugal. Same here. And it's very interesting to see the availability of gigs now, and even as opposed to Portugal. And I know it's in terms of scale and volume and audiences, but even in the 80s and way back when, a lot of tours went to Spain. So, I mean, do you think that, and this is a very more personal question, do you think that it's because, again, in Spain there's more openness to different types of, even within rock, like they would be more open to, say, acts like George Lynch, because I don't think George Lynch would be successful or could fill out a room in Portugal, in Lisbon, if you will.
I mean, when I saw him in Madrid, it was a small room also, but probably not. In Lisbon, the experience that I have is a lot of good bands don't even feel like a small room like Music Box, So it's...
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that with Guitar Hero, do you remember?
Yes.
And with YouTube and internet becoming more way more used for music, just
search
with Spotify and also YouTube with the videos. I think nowadays it could be possible to fill a small room, but still it's difficult, I think a lot of bands don't play here because promoters think of it as a very big risk to bring them here, to Portugal. So.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I recall, and this was 10 years ago, mind you, I was doing my exchange and I actually wanted to go fly back to Portugal to actually see Alice Cooper. And he was scheduled to play, and I don't even think it was one of the big arenas, but they canceled like 1 month after I think it was Praça de Touros or something like that. Yeah. And that's not massive, but they canceled because they couldn't even fill like, I think 40% capacity or 1/3 capacity. Yeah. And that's Alice Cooper. He was somewhat popular in Portugal, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you have like 105.4, the radio station that they do make an effort to bring some bands like George Lynch and well, not Dokken, but smaller scale.
Yeah.
I recall I once saw a double feature, if you will, with Ted Polly from Danger opening for Firehouse at the Casino Estoril, right? Yeah. So again, and it was like pretty okay. I think it was Ted Polly who had a like yourself, a camcorder. Just a digital one, and this was in 2012. So basically, the guy was recording the audience's reaction to his performance. So yeah, I mean, there are some efforts, but again, nothing in the same scale.
I believe that London is a world apart, but Madrid and Spain in the 80s, I think they had a lot of bands that used to tour there, but they didn't went to Portugal.
No, like David Lee Roth, for example, he toured for the Skyscraper tour in Madrid, Barcelona, but not Lisbon.
The problem is that we have like in Portugal one big city, Lisbon, but in Spain you have a lot of cities that they can tour. For example, another concert that also got me interested in photography was a band called Junkyard. I don't know if you know them.
I do not, but I'm making a note.
It's like a... I mean, they become very famous because Axl Rose had a T-shirt of their band on a photo shoot,
Okay.
And they are like from LA, but what happened was I saw them in 2007, and basically they were 2008 in Madrid. They were basically the band stopped having success with like grunge, and so basically they just stopped playing as a band in 92, 93. But in 2003, a Spanish promoter that was organizing a festival really liked them and paid them enough to make a reunion for one show, in Spain, in a festival. And a few years after, the same guy did talk with them again and said, okay, I can book you a tour in Spain. And it was like 10 days, 7 shows. And it was like in 7 cities, Barcelona, Madrid, Bilbao, Sevilla, and a few more cities. It was like basically the guys that nowadays they had their different jobs. One was like a cooker, the other was a web programmer, and they basically took a week off of their jobs and went to Spain to do a tour. It's a different market. They can organize this kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a rare occasion. I guess then you have some cases like bands that continue to tour even during the grunge era in Asia, mainly in Japan, right? Or even some niche markets, not niche, but more like where there's a volume of followers that justifies having that follow up, like Germany or even I would say Spain. Like Spain, the rock culture is quite strong there, especially. I mean, you know it better than I do because you've been to more gigs there. But I had the pleasure to see Kiss in 2015, and it was in Barcelona. Wow, it was an experience. I don't think that could be replicated. Maybe in Germany where I saw Motley Crue. And the farewell tour, again, insane. But I don't think even in the UK you get the same type of like reception like we saw in Barcelona.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's my opinion. But again, so you mentioned obviously some of the bands you've seen and some of the concerts that really had an impact, whether because they motivated you to pursue something different or to continue to perfect the art of photography. But again, as a guitar player, you mentioned Guns N' Roses, Metallica, but who would you cite as your main influence? And again, maybe the album that you keep going back to and that you really enjoy and that you find to be the Bible for guitar players.
Yeah, that's a tough question, but
I know.
In terms of influence, basically, I started getting into music with my cousin, and at the beginning it was mostly like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, and a bit later Skid Row. Those were the top 3 bands that that really got me into music. But later on, I started to mostly like from buying guitar magazines. I started to get to know a lot more different guitar players, and also because of my father, I got to start listening to the blues. So I was really into Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton. Then also got into different bands like Van Halen, a lot of glam bands, not very known, but a lot of different bands. That started with basically with internet giving more access to a lot of different artists. Then a few years later, I really got into the Black Crowes. It's one of the bands that, I mean, again, in Portugal they didn't have much success. I mean, on their following European tour, they have a date here, but I'm not sure if they will be playing or not. But yeah. That was one of the bands that I really started admiring from like a songwriting point of view,
Okay.
And then I also got into a little bit of jazz and funk, but I mean, I'm not like a really jazz guy, There are a lot of jazz musicians which I don't really like to listen because I think it's like very exaggerated what they do, in terms of, but there are 2 guys which I really like, and I think them as a bit of an influence when I try to play those styles, which are Wes Montgomery and Grant Green. It's a different style from rock, but I think it's good music, And regarding an album, it's very difficult, but I would say that probably Jimi Hendrix X is Bold as Love. It's like the record I can listen to from beginning to end and never really
get bored, or you can always revisit it.
Yeah,
I get it. I was actually, my money was on you picking either Use Your Illusion 1 or 2 as an influence. Yeah,
could be, but
no, I get it.
From like the guitar playing point of view, this is my. It's like Van Halen 1, you have to compare the put it in the context of their time, and I think it's like an amazing record
the innovation
for the date it was done,
Yeah, absolutely, and I think both, I don't know, a decade apart between Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, they really revolutionized, or even like it was a place to see them on stage. I assume. Yeah, I guess with Slash, it's a funny story because he's a great guitar player. I wonder if in an alternative universe, we would be talking about Poison as opposed to Guns N' Roses. If he were to be the original pick, now we'd be like, oh yeah, Poison. Wow, they just sold another #1 chart-topping album. Guns N' Roses. Yeah, well, we know about it. We know. Yeah, we heard something like Guns N' Roses. Yeah, with the guy.
Guns N' Roses would still be famous because of Axl, But
Axl, yeah.
But maybe Poison would be a much better and more famous
than CC DeVille. Interesting bit you mentioned. So 3 key bands adding to Metallica and Guns N' Roses. You also mentioned Skid Row. And again, it's very interesting to see the trajectory of Skid Row because, and I mean, I'm talking about the first 2 albums. I'm not too familiar with their work after their second album. Something that I wish to solve by listening to the remaining albums, but it's very interesting to see from the evolution in just 2 albums from the Skid Row and from 1989 and Slave to the Grind 1991, right? They went into they embraced a completely different direction. And I mean, as a fan, do you love both albums equally, or do you tend to prefer
the first one?
The first one, okay, that's interesting.
I believe most people prefer the second one, Slave to the Grind, but I got into them with the first one, and I also had a VHS tape that a friend of mine got me. It's like an home video filmed during the first tour,
Oh, okay.
They also have another one from the second tour, from the second album, but I prefer the first one, and I don't know. I always love that. It's one of those records that the Hendrix record, I can listen from beginning to end, without feeling like I want to skip a track. It's really really good.
Yeah, I think from all those late '80s bands that were just trying to either replicate a bit of Motley Crue and a bit of Guns N' Roses, the 2 leading influences as the decade ended. I think they really found their own spot, right? Because don't get me wrong, I like the album, but it's still pretty formulaic in terms of the ballads and I Remember You and the anthem Youth Gone Wild. But I mean, it still works, and it was a success, and the follow up was a success because they made it work. So I think it's a very well produced album, and even Sebastian Bach, who later came to denounce the ballads, and they're like, well, the record label made us do it, but I still think it works, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're feeling. You were saying like
those ballads.
Yeah.
I Remember You, 18 and Life. I really like
18 and Life. Yeah, they're great. I think from Slave to the Grind, you get some cool tracks, but it's a different theme altogether, different universe. Good stuff. And I mean, when it comes to, just out of curiosity, Portuguese bands, I mean, I've recently found myself listening or discovering the Skid Row equivalents, or the Portuguese
Joker.
Skid Row equivalents. Joker, exactly, and Iberia.
Yeah. There were some good bands.
So slowly finding that, and it's interesting to find that Joker, which is, I mean, their album, their 1992 album was like released during a time when that sound was almost going out of fashion, or pretty much outdated, right? But it's interesting that they came out with the release with the debut album with a sound that was on the way out.
Yeah, but it's a good record. I haven't listened to it for a while, but
me neither. I mean, I actually found out about them because of the radio. The 75.4 kept playing them, and Easy Come, right? That's the signature track that they kept playing on and on. Good stuff. So basically, moving on to the photography side. I mean, you clarified. I thought because of the photos, and to all the listeners, if you do have a chance, do follow Miguel. I live his account when I post this. But I mean, when you look at the photos, they look super professional, Miguel, and also they look like they're taking from a vantage point, i.e., you know, every time you go to a gig, you see the little the little area in the front where you get the photographers to actually go and get a premium position, if you will, to capture the gigs. But you clarified that, and you told, listen, Pedro, it's actually I have the same viewpoint as you do, most likely, or anybody else, like from the audience.
Yeah.
So I mean, is there? Are you one of those people that when the doors open, you're there and you just run for the first row? How is that, man?
No.
Let me know.
I mean,
no.
If I did it a few times, but normally I just try to go a bit early, but not super early, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to move around during the concert, you know, to get different angles. And now if I go there and stay on the front row, it's great, but all the pictures will be more or less the same angle, you know. So I try to go, I mean, check different points and move a bit, you know, during the concert to capture different angles, you know. It's for a variety point of view, you know.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. And I mean, I think the fact that you just listen, we've all done it. I'm not gonna say I'm not guilty of that sin of actually reaching out for the phone to take a photo. But I mean, for you, it's a completely different experience because you're not depriving yourself from, or you're not trying to record something for social media purposes. So for you, it's really part of like experiencing the whole gig, right? It's not right. And how do you? Well, are you usually when you're in the middle of an audience? Do you find, for example, people looking at you, wow, this guy with a camera and whatnot, and they're just with the phone, like?
I mean, lately, I need to. I'm only allowed to bring like compact cameras, you know, because I can take my best cameras to the concert.
Yeah,
I only use them when I'm shooting like a concert of a friend, or for example, some festival might allow it, but it's quite rare. So normally, what I do is bring a compact camera, you know, with a good zoom. You know, it's what happens. The quality isn't as good as the professional cameras, but it's okay, you know. And
that's good.
What I try to do is basically I try to find an area in the audience where for example, many times I just go to the side of the audience and shoot from there where there's no one behind me, you know, because I understand that I'm not going to be there blocking the view from someone who's behind me. So most of the times that's what I try to do. And if I'm in the first like 5 rows, I also try to basically find an angle where I'm in between 2 people in front of me and shoot from there, you know, without taking it very, very high, you know, the camera, not raising my arm and blocking someone's.
Yeah, of course.
I try to do that, yeah. A few times I might not be able to, but normally I try, and if I'm blocking, I basically take a few pictures and move to some other spot, you know.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool, and you're absolutely right. In terms of bringing any recording devices or even anything photography related, it's a bit a big no in most of the gigs, and you need to carry it around.
Yeah,
so
but I mean,
that's so yeah.
The technology nowadays, there are some cameras good enough to take a few pictures. Now they are quite good, you know.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean. Yeah, and even with the whole editing process, do you edit them a lot, or you usually you take several? Obviously, you don't take one and off you go. But how's the editing process like? Do you spend some time getting around to making them look better, or even better?
No, I always do the editing, but it's a bit of a boring process. So in the end, what I usually do, it's like I accumulate a lot of photos to edit. Nowadays, I got it like a few months ago. I got an iPad Pro,
Okay.
which is much more practical for me to edit the photos. But yeah, I use a software called Lightroom,
Okay.
which
Lightroom, yeah.
it's basically belongs to Adobe, and it's
Yeah.
like a mini version of Photoshop for
Yeah.
photographers. But it's very practical.
Okay.
And I mean,
Yeah, I've heard of it.
correct the colors. Some photos I try to edit in black and white, and
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I do a little bit of editing.
No, yeah, of course. No, I just was wondering like how if you dedicated a lot of time to edit the photos, but as you said, it's pretty much
for
like
me the worst part is selecting the photos, because since I can't use my pro cameras, I have to take a lot of photos, because for different reasons they can, and it with a good camera it's easier to get good photos, But even still, I talked with a few professional photographers, and they told me that they take a huge amount of photos in each concert. So I was like, okay, I'm not the only one who takes that many pictures. But
makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
But that for me, that's the most the hardest part of the process. The filtering of the photos, and then editing them. Editing them it's quite fast. It's like less than 5 minutes for each picture, and should be enough.
But it's the selection of like killing your babies, like they say. Like it's you never want to let them go in order to find the right one.
Similar pictures, because normally I take like a sequence, because the artists are moving around, so I have to take like I don't know, like a sequence of 4 or 5 pictures or more, and then I have to select between a few very close picture, very similar. Say, okay, this is the one I want to edit. It's that's kind of the most difficult part for me.
Completely get it. Yeah. And I mean, from all the gigs you've been to, is there like a memorable photo or one that you say that's the one? Obviously, you mentioned your first one with Soulfly, second row. That must have been amazing. But beyond that one, is there like one or two photos that you're just like, wow, I recall that and that captured the moment so well?
My favorite is it was Metallica in Berlin.
Okay.
And it's James Hetfield. Basically, it's like his silhouette, just his shape, and then there's like a cone of light,
Ooh.
And basically and you see a little bit of the audience, but yeah, it's like a cone of light and James Hetfield silhouette, like really badass, I think that's my favorite. But actually, it's funny because it was one of the first pictures that I took with like a digital camera. It was basically I took a few pictures on that George Lynch show. I think this was beginning of 2008. I don't know, February or March, and this Metallica concert was on the same year on around September. I think it was September 12th, I believe. It was like a concert to celebrate the record that they released then, and basically it was like a contest that fans from a lot of countries won the contest and went to see the concert, and I had a small camera. And basically, I took a few pictures from the stands. I wasn't really that close, but that one really got. I mean, it was really good. When I saw it, was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And that's the photo that inspired me to get a better camera and start doing more concert photography.
Wow.
But yeah, it's still my favorite of the pictures I took. Yeah.
I'll have to look that one up. On your page, that's really cool. I mean, I wish I had something to share in terms of a photo I enjoyed. I guess when you talk or describing that, and obviously, mind you, I'm more of an amateur. But one photo, it's not particularly well taken because I was still from a distance. But in terms of getting like a silhouette of a performer in a badass position, I would say Billy Idol. In 2018 here in London.
Nice.
It's great, but again, it's because I guess I was too far, and so the zoom kind of blurs the picture, so it wasn't great. But that was one a comparable one, I would say.
I mean, now those pictures always, I don't know, they have like an impact when you see the artist in the silhouette. It's quite nice.
Absolutely, and I think he just like James Hetfield, the presence on stage, both of them, like they command the audience, right? So it's not like Mick Mars or something like who for illness purposes he has to be a bit on the side. But yeah, fantastic. And I mean, having that or sharing your work and doing that, and even sometimes you do get to meet some of the. Have you had the opportunity to meet either gig organizers or concert or festival organizers, or even some of the bands, or any band member? Were you ever lucky to be tagged or reshared or something, or even in person?
I mean, in terms of meeting personally, I never met. Like only in a meet and greet, but it was
okay.
But not for photography.
Related, so. Who was it in the meet and greet? By the way,
it was Skid Row in Madrid.
Okay, cool.
I've always been, even without Sebastian. I think they are still.
Yeah.
They have some okay records, but they have some good songs in there. So, and I was like, in there, I really love the guitar players now, Scotty Hill and Dave Snake Sabo.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to meet them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm sure they're calmer now than they were many years ago.
Talked about guitars and guitar gear. And it was really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, so that was great. So it was the meet and greet, and it was part of the ticket, or did you? Was it just like one of those?
It was an
funny
extra,
or good coincidences? Okay.
It was an acceptable price for a meet and greet, because nowadays they are not that famous, I mean, if you want to meet Kiss or even Metallica, even though they normally have like a contest that you can enter, and if you are lucky, you get to meet them. Yeah,
it's still very expensive.
But that contest is free, But
But if you want,
like James Hetfield nowadays is much more reserved guy, and he only participates in a meet and greet that you have to pay, and that's quite a lot of money,
Yeah, of course.
I mean, this was like 90 euros or something, It was okay.
No, it was okay. It's doable.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And I mean, from all obviously we talked about different bands and different gigs, but what was the best one? I mean, beyond either the most memorable or the one that had an impact. Obviously, you mentioned George Lynch and you mentioned Metallica and some other gigs, but what would be like the top one or two that you would select for different reasons?
I couldn't select just two. I made a top three.
Oh, go for it! But that's great.
I mean, not any order. Just
these
three are top. From what I've seen. Metallica S&M 2. In San Francisco, it was really incredible. I was quite lucky because they played 2 nights, and I went there only having ticket for the second show. But basically, it was in San Francisco, and when I went there, I met a guy in the airport in London because he was also going. A Brazilian guy, friend of mine nowadays, and basically we only had ticket for a second night, but we arrived on the day of the first night. And then he also had a friend that was going from Brazil, and we also met another Brazilian guy in the San Francisco airport. And we were like, "Oh, we arrived today. Let's go to the venue, just to see like the people there. It should be like a nice environment with so many Metallica fans traveling from everywhere." And when we were there, we were like, "Oh, there's a ticket office there. They are still seem to be selling tickets because the show was sold out. So." But we looked, they are selling tickets at the door. Let's see, and basically they had like a last call tickets that from what I've been told, was probably it was like places reserved for guests, because it was like the opening night of that venue, which is where the Golden State Warriors play. It was like a new venue, and probably it was like a lot of guest spots that were not taken, by the people, and they were selling, and we got really, really nice tickets. Like it was the stage was in the middle of the arena. And this was like there were like 5 rows, and this was the 5th row, but it was really nice because it was the last row in that area, so I could stand up on the chair and see like the whole stage. Now I wasn't like blocked by anyone. It was, and seeing that show from there was really, really incredible. With the orchestra, I can imagine. Metallica, it was really, really good. The other 2 shows. Elton John on this farewell tour. I saw him in Madrid. I had seen him before, but this show from this last tour was really incredible. It was, and almost 3 hours, really, really great songs. And I mean, if anyone listening likes Elton John, I think they should check this tour, because probably they have moved the dates for next year, but I know he had like a scheduled tour in Europe and the UK for the end of this year. I believe they moved it to next year, but it was like a really incredible show. The previous show I had seen from him was okay, but it wasn't really special. Yeah. But this one was really, really good.
I mean, I've never seen him live, so maybe that's something I should look into, because I'd really love to. Well, he's a great performer, and I'd love to have a chance to see him.
And I mean, it was one of the rare cases when I actually believe it's the farewell tour, because I mean, maybe now with the pandemic, it just might change his mind, but I really believe so, because he said he wanted to spend time with his kids and his family, so he's like 70 something, I don't know. So, but yeah, it was a really good show. And the other one was Queen with Adam Lambert. Some people might say, "Oh, without Freddie Mercury, it's not good." I mean,
the same, yeah.
I think it's not the same, but still really good, And the songs are incredible. For me, I forgot to mention, but Queen is also a very big influence on me, and Brian May. It's one of my favorite guitar players, And that concert was like really perfect from beginning to end in terms of music. It was really well executed, and the sound was great. The audience, I really loved that concert.
Wow, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Brian May, because I just found out about his project Starfleet.
Yeah. I have that on vinyl. It's really nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I just found out about it, and I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet.
It's nice. It's nice.
But it's somewhat. It's only 3 tracks long, right?
I mean, one track is a
20-minute track.
I don't know if it reaches 20 minutes, but it's quite large. It's like a blues jam with him and Eddie Van Halen, but it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, that one is on my list. I love to stumble onto new stuff. So yeah, cool. So 3 great gigs. I mean, I've never seen Queen nor Elton John, but yeah, I had the opportunity to see Metallica many years ago. Great show. I think now James Hetfield is a more seasoned guy and probably a bit more reserved, without compromising his stage persona. But correct me if I'm wrong. You've seen him more recently than I have. It's been over 10 years since I've seen Metallica. So has he changed? Like, have you noticed like any on-stage persona changes, or it's pretty much still there kicking ass?
It changed a lot between like 2000 and when they had like he went to peraí, não me lembro agora. Depois tens de cortar isto.
Their 2008 album?
No, when between 2000 and 2003 they took a break. He had to go to rehab, and when they came back, then I saw a little, not a little, significant change, in his persona. Because
Okay.
back then he used to be a lot more like cursing on stage and
Yeah.
making jokes with the crowd, making fun of the
Yeah.
crowd. But since then, I think it has been more or less the same. That's when
Okay.
the big change happened for him.
Okay.
So between
Interesting.
10 years ago and nowadays, I think it's quite similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
No major shifts.
Mm.
That's good. So in terms of probably like now we talked about the best. Now talk about the rest. The gig that you, or at least that disappointed you, or at least didn't fulfill your expectations. I mean, the worst one or the least satisfying one that you.
This is even more difficult.
More
than
difficult.
The favorite record.
Okay.
Because I mean, most of the times when I go to a concert, I know that I'm gonna like it. It's.
Mm-hmm.
And what disappoints me sometimes is like the opening band. It's but
Yeah.
on the other hand, it's like I wasn't going to watch them, so.
Mm-hmm.
I know that.
Yes.
That's the only answer. And
Okay.
for example,
Okay.
I went to see Hailstorm. That band, with
Mhm.
H. I saw them in London in 2019, and the opening bands were like really bored me.
Yeah. No,
and
I know.
it's like I'm waiting for the headliner, Hailstorm, and I'm like, oh, can you finish this gig? And yeah. That's the only answer I could give you. This.
No. It's completely fine. I mean,
Yes.
it's good that you appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, normally, if I go to see a band, I bought a ticket. I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy it. Even, for example, I saw Dokken. I think it was the same year I saw George Lynch in Madrid, 2008, 2007. And Don's voice is, it has had better days, but still I enjoyed the show. So I'm not that kind of guy that's like, I'm very disappointed. It is, I had a lot of fun
you
at
accept,
that show,
yeah.
so it was quite good.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's well, same with me, say for one or two exceptions. But you're right. Like for example, a few months ago, I had to embrace the fact that I'll never see Van Halen live,
me too.
and that was very disappointing. But if I were to see, I don't know, maybe if I had a chance to see David Lee Roth, I'm aware he was never a great lead singer to begin with. Fine, I'm okay with that, and his voice only got worse. But I would still do it, just
Yeah.
because of his status as a legend. But again, if you already have that notion, or at least know what to expect, like your case with Dokken, you kind of like you know what you're going for. It's not like, oh, the sound was bad, right? Though I have to say, up until 2018, I would probably have the same reaction or the same answer you gave me to the question, the worst gig or the gig that disappointed you the most. And I would say that actually after 2018 I do have an answer, and that was Kamasi Washington. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because whether his music, it should work live because it's jazz and it's accompanied by a live, like a big band. Maybe it was the venue, I don't know. It was a very dull gig, and it was... I don't know. It really was a disappointment, and I'm a fan. I own his albums, but it just didn't work. And I guess a lot of people have that complaint about Lenny Kravitz. I don't know if you ever seen him live. I didn't.
In Madrid, like a few years ago. And
how is it? Is it
I
justifiable?
liked it, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, oh, he's just there, like existing on stage.
The concert I saw, it was quite good. It was really interacting with the band and the crowd.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it depends on the year. Sometimes it's a bit off and a bit, I don't know, more philosophical or something. And his attitude on stage is different,
more
the one I saw was quite good.
Yeah, very good. Then I'll have to re-add them to the list. Thank you, Miguel. And the last bit, and I guess it's a bit tied with enjoying something versus not enjoying it as much, and it's the concert or individual concert or gig versus festival. And I know that we discussed before offline about the idea of, well, you've been, I haven't, to the Sweden's Rock Festival, hopefully next year, but I was wondering, like, if you have like a preference for you. Obviously there are some names you can only see as part of a festival, music festival, and that's fine. But if you have a choice, like, which one, for me, from a photography, from an environment, from everything, like, which one would you pick?
I mean, I'll be talking about the Sweden Rock, because for me it's like a perfect festival, in the sense that I like around now 70 to 80% of the bands that play more. I mean, almost every year, I always see the bill. Now, the artists from previous years, I'm like, oh, I love this festival, It's and on that end, it's like they allow good cameras in that festival, which is very rare, I don't know if in Sweden everyone has like a really good camera, and they for some reason have to allow it, but yeah, they don't have any problems with the cameras that I can bring. And it's really well organized in terms of, you have like 5 stages, but they don't really overlap like similar artists, at the same time. So basically I have an opportunity to watch almost all the artists I want to see.
Yeah.
And they also have another thing which I've never seen at other festival, which is basically all the artists play at least 1 hour, And you don't have that situation when you love this band, but they play like 45 minutes, And the only bands that play half an hour, like really small local Swedish bands. But that's like the exception. All the all the relatively famous bands play like 1 hour or more, So it's a great festival. So it's my favorite. The first time I went there was 2010. Came back 2017, 2019, and I was going this year. I'm going to the next edition.
Next edition.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's. I mean, I prefer festivals in general, but this is like the top festival for me.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of the lineups. And they look pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I hope I get a chance to go there, because again, you do get some cool bands mixed up with some of them are unknown. I mean, to be honest, I would love to actually still hopefully have the opportunity to see Twisted Sister. I don't know if they're still performing, but it's actually no.
I also didn't get to see them, and they retired a few years ago, and.
Okay.
But I mean, you never know.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. But I mean, with all the great bands, and I mean, I think it's, from what you described, it's a great environment. So hopefully I'll.
Yeah. And also, like, the people there are very, very nice, and it's the whole environment and the crowd is really really nice, having fun, and a lot of characters in the crowd, but it's a really good festival.
Sounds great. Okay, Miguel, listen. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest, and we'll see each other at the Sweden Rock Festival 2021, I guess.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'm sure.
Good stuff.